Great. Okay. So what we're going to cover how to build an effective resume, how to find jobs, how to tailor your resume. And I'm actually excited to say that we will be using ChatGPT for this. There are certain ways that we can leverage AI, right, to make our lives easier. So why not? Just the one thing I would quickly highlight is we do want to be very cognizant of some of the privacy concerns using digital tools. And so I'll kind of mention, how you do that, how to interview, and then how to make the most out of your job. Okay. So first of all, why would you want a summer job? Um, we love it when students actually get summer jobs, and that could also be internships. Right now, if you're a student who is, pursuing a summer camp over the summer, great. Right. The main thing is that you're using your time to be productive, and the main thing is that you're using your time to learn something new. Right. And so if you were, attending the summer program over at Cal Poly, right, or MIT Beaverworks or NYU, that's great. Conversely, if you want to spend your summer, working at the Cal Academy of Sciences, right, like one of our students, that's fantastic, right? Or if you just want to get a job at like Trader Joe's, that's also great. Um, I think the way that it's really helpful is, so number one, you get to interact with a variety of different people. So if you're working at Trader Joe's, you get to interact with a lot of customers, some of them who may be very difficult, right? These are like that's a very, very valuable skill set for you to develop because as we progress in our careers, we're going to come across folks who may not be as, I'd say, pleasant as others. And so I think there's like a level of resiliency that you build and empathy that you build as well. You'll also deal with work-related challenges. Your job is not going to be perfect from the get-go. Frankly, you'll be learning a lot. You'll probably be, encountering challenges, right? You may fail here or there. You may make mistakes. That is totally okay, right? We'd rather you do that now than later when the stakes are higher. Also, difficult coworkers and difficult, I'd say, co-working situations and environments. Now, that's kind of similar to like the first bullet, and then that what you like and what you don't like. So this could be, if it's an industry that's of interest to you, if it's a particular function. So we have some students who want to go into sales, right, or entrepreneurship. So work at a business, right? Maybe work in, like the back end admin, finance functions, and see how you like it. You may realize you actually love the environment. You hate what you're doing, which is totally fine, right? Overall objective is we're learning, 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 and even if that job is not, I'd say, functionally aligned or aligned to your industry of interest, still, there will be some nuggets that you can take away from that that will be, I'd say, truly helpful as you think about not just, I'd say, life after college, but also college itself and the rest of high school. Okay. And we also like to share that you get to earn and manage money, right? This doesn't mean you get to earn and spend money. I mean, that's entirely yours. Like it's your money, right? Um, but it does help students actually build, I'd say, an increased level of responsibility too. So we love it, right? When students get jobs. I mean, frankly, if you take a look at some of the colleges out there, Cal State's actually very, very highly value work experience. And they're not the only ones. Now, that brings me to the next point, which is to strengthen college applications. Because it doesn't just showcase, I'd say, like a good use of your summer, it also showcases um, the development of you as an individual, right? And that's really what colleges care about is who are you as a person and how will you contribute to the community. Okay. And then before we jump into that too, I also want to make sure that folks are aware of like the job permitting process. And I don't know if folks can, yeah, people can say, okay. So what you can see actually is, so this is the Acalanes High School District. And this is just actually really helpful for folks to take a look at. But um, as we kind of get into like the job piece, it will be helpful to kind of know like what are the processes to get approved for a job. So I'll just kind of highlight them right now. Keep in mind, I'm not an employment lawyer, right? This is not like legal advice. I'm just going to read what they have. So the steps are primarily, download the California work permit. And I can send this, actually, why don't I do this? I'll send this link across to everybody else. Now, this is just Acalanes, so make sure that you check your respective schools. But I would imagine like this is going to be um, uh, pretty consistent across. fill out the information, right, and sign it. Have your parents or employers fill it out, and then send the work permit to your counselor. And if school's not in session, you can send the permit to the district office for signature. So effectively what has to happen is they do need to kind of sign off on it. Um, so I would just make sure like that you're aware of this process so that way you don't go too far into the job hunting process and you don't, and we completely forget about this and that might have been for naught. Although that's still a good lesson. That's still a pretty good lesson. Okay. So now let's go into the resume. So what goes in resume, how to build a resume. So the first most important thing is you do want to keep it simple and clean. So we already have that here. So you can actually just like literally just download this, right? Maybe copy this into your own Google Drive and just work off of this. That's totally fine. And actually the sample resume that I'll kind of share with you later, it's of that exact same format. Additionally, this is also where ChatGPT can be helpful too, is if you just have like your activities, you can put this template in it. You can say, hey, build a resume off of these activities, off of my accomplishments, and use this format. It'll do that. I just did it. Okay. So keep it simple, clean. So the format that we have is fine. Don't excessively format, right? So I think number one, you can accomplish with this. Okay. Number two, focus on relevant content. So that is most relevant to your goals. So now let's put the college admissions piece aside. Let's look at the specific job opportunities. We're going to touch on number two later in this presentation. But for now, just to start with, I would actually suggest that you put, all of your accomplishments down. That way you have a full composite of what you've done. And then we can leverage AI to kind of tailor it accordingly based on the jobs. Okay. Also use action words. So led, organized, created, right? So for example, if you worked at a soup kitchen, you could say something like, 2025 to 2026, 10th grade, Oakland, California, was a server at the Oakland Soup Kitchen on Thanksgiving and Christmas, assisted, over 50 families with provision of like warm meals, right? Like that's an action verb. And that gets to the next point, which is we're also quantifying the achievements, right? So it's important for us not to just say, it's important for you to say what you did versus what you are doing. And it's for us to, whenever you can, add some quantification. So even if it's something like, hey, I became like the varsity goalie, great, right? What grade did that happen? How many games did you play? How many games did you win? What was your goals against average? There are numbers you can find in almost everything. Okay, even if you're volunteering, how many hours did you volunteer? How many organizations did you impact? Did you impact a number of people? If you led a team, how many people were part of the team? So there are a lot of different ways you can quantify. Now, number five, we'll kind of go to that. We'll go over that next, which is, or in like a little bit, which is ChatGPT. And keep education front and center, right? So this should be at the top of the resume, which it already is. Okay. So high school name, graduation, GPA, honors and awards. And your honors and awards, they don't just have to be academic too. If you have the President's Volunteer Service Award, which I think a few of you do, because you've hit a specific, I'd say, designation within, or you've hit like a specific number of hours, right, within a calendar year, put that down, right? If you won an award for like Eagle Scout, if you are a first degree black belt, put that down, right? These are all really helpful for an employer to have because it serves as context for them to kind of evaluate you as an individual, okay? And by the way, they all know that you're in high school, so no one's expecting you, right, to have like a resume that, frankly, some of your parents would. And then if your GPA is strong, generally include it, right? Feel free to include it regardless if you'd like to. Otherwise, if you don't feel comfortable, including it, you can leave it out. Totally fine. And then obviously be honest. What we don't want is we don't want anyone to exaggerate. That can really come and bite you because if you are then kind of called to the carpet and you do make it to your interview and they say, hey, how did you do X, Y, and Z? And if either you didn't do it or if you, say numbers that are inconsistent with your resume, it's going to mark off some red flags. And so I think the accomplishments are helpful, but one of the baseline attributes that anybody's hiring for is ethics, right? So are you honest? So be honest. One page, you're in high school, only one page long. Okay. Transferable skills, I think this we can also use with ChatGPT. Proofread carefully. This is also really important. So for those who um, aren't familiar, so in Google, you can actually go to tools. Oh, it's in review. Sorry. Where are you? There it is. Tools, spelling, and grammar. So it can conduct a spelling and grammar check for you. Highly recommend you use it. And also before you create a resume, if you were to have a resume that lists the specific opportunity, like make sure that the opportunity listed in the resume is the actual opportunity. So you're not sending the wrong resume to the wrong employer. Cool. Soft skills, we'll cover that later. And then consistent contact information. So, okay. One question that we get actually on LinkedIn is, should you have a LinkedIn profile? You're more than welcome to. And frankly, what you will build on the resume is something that you can totally create on LinkedIn. We have some students who do it. Some students don't feel comfortable, creating a LinkedIn page, which is totally fine. But if you do feel comfortable, we do kind of recommend it because, even when you're looking at internships, if you're looking at like an example like Cosmos or like I mentioned like Beaverworks, right? If you do have a professional digital presence, it will certainly help you. So, but we're going to focus on the resume here. The LinkedIn piece, it's relatively straightforward once you've got the resume down pat. Cool. So let's keep going. Okay. Job search. So you notice I went to the job search next. Well, actually, before that, sorry, I just kind of skipped ahead. So one thing that I would like for everyone to do is you all should have something like this. And so what this effectively is this is like an activities tracker that we have you create. Okay, because we already mentioned like the academic accomplishments or GPA, the classes you've taken, right? That's in your transcript. That's already there. What's not in your transcript is things that you've done outside of class. And so here I've just kind of listed some sample activities for folks, okay? So this student's name is Sunny Graywell. You kind of wonder where that name came from. And so I said, I'm in 10th grade, I go to Miramani, and I'm a goalie on the Miramani varsity soccer team. I became the starting goalie freshman year. And now here's, I think, where it gets a little bit interesting. It's like, what lessons did I learn and what did I develop and what impact did I have? You don't need to think overly hard, but like, I think just, and it can be something it can be something pretty soft, right? Like impact I had on my organization. Well, I led to their first shutout, in like 10 games. Okay. Or like goals against average of 0.5 goals per game. Okay. Something like that, right? It's quantifiable, like, which is what we mentioned the last time. Skills I learned, lessons I learned, skills I developed. And so here, I became a starting goalie my freshman year. So what did I learn? I learned how to take on challenges and adapt pretty quickly, right? I also may have learned how to compete against those much older than I. Okay. So grades, I said 9th and 10th. Okay. Next one, volunteering. So Oakland Homeless Shelter. I helped feed those in needs. I served in kitchens Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday, and you can even say quantifiable. Served over 50 people during the holidays. Okay. Lessons I learned, skills I developed, how to help others during time of need, how to deal with those less fortunate. The mechanics, I said I'm a treasurer for mechanics group. And then I also helped build a robot that launched tennis balls and managed our club's finances. Impact that I had in the organization. I said coded the robot in C++, helped design it in AutoCAD, and reduced or like balanced budget for school year. Okay. AutoCAD, C++, and accounting. Oops, sorry, moving a little bit quickly. Money management. Okay. So the application to other parts of life, like, think about this, right? You don't have to get it perfect. And let's say I did this in 10th grade. Cool. So this is the activities list. The other thing that I would also just make sure that you have done is a estimate of the number of hours per week and weeks per year. Because one, this will actually help us as your consultants to know like how busy you are, right? So this way we know not to put too much on your plate. And this also is like a way for you to also appreciate just how busy you've been and like all the stuff that you've done. Because there's a really good chance that by the time you get to junior or senior year, you actually may forget about all this. I'm sure your parents might tell you the same, like those who applied to college in the US, that by the time you get to senior year, it's almost like you kind of black out and you forget like what happened freshman year. So do this and keep a running tab and update it. It's only going to help you. So let's say, boys soccer, it's 10 hours a week. So it's 12 weeks. No, it's actually 20 weeks a year. Volunteering, I did 3 hours a week. That's 10 weeks a year. Mechanics, it's 2 hours a week. That is 20 weeks here. Okay. This means I'm looking at roughly 15 hours a week, right, for some of my year. Okay. So make sure you have this. Okay. So now let's actually go into the resume. So what I would ask you to do then is once you have like that activities list, then you can effectively go into ChatGPT and say like, hey, these are my accomplishments. This is my GPA. This is my unweighted GPA. These are the classes that I've taken. These are the awards that I've gotten. I just build a resume. Quick note, and I cannot stress this enough. Do not put your name in it. We want to make sure that because it is like an AI tool, and so especially from our perspective, we want to make sure there's data privacy. Obviously, it's your data, but just a recommendation is to not put your names in it. So if like I wouldn't put your transcript in it directly, right? I would instead just kind of list your courses, your grades in those courses. You can list your high school, it's fine. You can list your grade, that's totally fine. But I wouldn't really mention like address, name, anything that can identify you. Okay. So now let's go ahead and so I actually did this. So I just said create for me a sample student, right? With this. I just put this in. Now your prompt obviously would be something with a bit more specific information. Like you can even put your activity list in there. You can put your grades in there and just say, just give me a resume. So here it goes, right? Now what's really neat is you can then say, use this template. So the template that I used is quite literally a template that I just shared with you. Put that template in. And again, don't use your names and just like say, create a resume for me. And here you go. So 1 second. Where are you? There it is. Okay. And lo and behold, there you go. Here's the resume, right? So now we've got the resume. There's my name, there's my education, there's my GPA. Here are my honors and awards, right? So I said I won just want to make sure I can, great, okay. Here are my honors and awards. Here are my extracurriculars. And marijuana, you can see it actually does mimic, right, what I wrote in the activities list. Here's my volunteer experience. So no, this isn't perfect. So you do need to should double check it. For example, this is animal shelter. I was not at the animal shelter. I was at the homeless shelter. My skills programming. So just make sure you double check this and you can see it's actually already over 2 pages. So you can ask ChatGPT, hey, shorten this to 1 page. You can also do things like formatting like this. You don't have to put every single one of your grades. I would actually not do that. I would instead try to simplify wherever you can based on subject and provide the overarching grade. Great question. Okay. So another job search. So I think the most important things are really like what fits in your schedule, right? Because what fits in your schedule, what fits in your parents' schedule. Depending on whether you can drive yourself or if your parents have to drive you around, that's really, really important. Additionally, you might be doing other things or that doesn't work, which is totally fine. You're not expected to get a full-time job, over the summer, you're expected to, just use your summer wisely. So if that means you're working only 10 hours a week, great. If you're working at the local Moraga Theater in the evenings and the weekends, great, right? But figure out what fits in your schedule. Some of you actually may also be having like sports commitments or other commitments over the summer. We want to make sure that you're not overextending yourself. Um, and additionally, I mentioned, so what you want to learn. So industry or skill set and board. So we have a student who's going to she's going to San Jose State actually for veterinary sciences. And she spent her summer working at the Oakland Zoo, right? Phenomenal experience for her. And as I mentioned, the Cal States love work experience. And so when they saw her application, they said, wait, she's been taking these courses that are in veterinary science is great. Oh, and look, she's actually been working at the Oakland Zoo for multiple years. This is fantastic, right? And not only does it help with college applications, but I think just more importantly, it really reinforced her that this is something she wanted to do. That's industry. Second is skill set. You may get both. You may just get one or the other. In that, if you go to, let's say, like you apply to Moraga, let's say you're working at the Moraga Theater, and you want to be a film studies major, fantastic, right? Like you got double whammy. But if you want to work in business and you work at the Moraga Theater, that's actually kind of interesting too, right? There is an industry play there too, because not only are you working with customers and learning how to interact with them, but also you get to learn like, okay, how does matinee pricing work? Why do we charge less for seniors than we do for non-seniors? Why do we charge so much for popcorn? So even if there may not be like an industry, like direct industry exposure, in some cases there actually will. So just you can be creative and also ask your parents too. So if you're looking to go to business, I would honestly actually like pretty much any single job would have like a business application. Um, but if you're looking to go into call it like medicine, maybe not so much if you were to work in the Moraga Theater, but at least at Moraga you'll be getting phenomenal skill set, right? Which is customer and interpersonal interactions. So if you want to become a doctor, obviously bedside manner is very, very important. And so this is a great way for you to start to develop empathy. Okay. And the environment you like. So this could mean, fast-paced environments. Could mean that you really enjoy working in the back, right? We've had students do both. Like one of our students, she said, I don't know what kind of a doctor I want to be. We said, great. But then we asked her, tell us about your last summer. She's like, oh man, it was such a chaotic experience. I was running around and we said, did you like it? She said, I absolutely loved it. And turns out we realized she really likes high pressure environments, and turns out she loves emergency medicine, right? So the environment doesn't have to, you may actually not even know what environment you like, which is totally fine. Again, that's all the more reason why I think, working somewhere will be really, really helpful. We had another student who worked in customer service, and he's an incredibly funny guy. We thought he would love it, hated it. Actually loved to work on the back. I think it was like unpacking boxes. That was his thing. All good. Okay. In terms of searching for the actual job, okay. So career exploration, there is a jobs and internships database. If you click on it, you go to jobs. We have updated this with, I think now close to 200 jobs across the Bay Area. Yeah, so 183. Okay. This isn't complete by any means, but if anything, this should at least like help simplify your search. So if you are in, so like if you're looking to work at, just more of in a customer service role, Trader Joe's, Canyon Club, right? There are a bunch of them here. And so in a lot of these jobs are, I'd say, like more just general kind of summer jobs. For those who are looking to go into coding, for example, you can use something like Indeed. So if I go to Indeed, this is what you can look for. So summer job, high school, coding, tutor. Just type that in. It's going to ask me to verify myself. Here you go. Right. So now what you want to do is you do want to filter this. You can say job type, part-time, seasonal. And then I think it'll tell me education. Give me 1 second. This should be fine. We do have to kind of go through these, but There it is, summer camp instructor, 20 hours an hour. And let's go into coding, programming tutor. Maybe they haven't actually posted them yet. Kensington. Yeah, so some of these actually do require like bachelor's, but I don't think they've actually posted them. So if I go to Code Academy, high school, there you go, coding school jobs. Okay, now you can actually filter this by experience level. So experience, entry level, there you go, after school coding instructor. So you can use Indeed as well. I think what you've noticed with Indeed is like it's not going to be perfect. You do need to, I'd say, kind of go through it a bit more, right, to suss out the ones that are for high school students, but it can be very, very helpful. Okay, so I think like those are the two main routes that we would take. And then frankly, if you're also struggling, like reach out to your consultants. They're going to be there to help you too, right? So if you're like, hey, I haven't had a whole lot of luck using Indeed, or haven't had a whole lot of luck using the jobs database, that's totally fine. One thing I will also note too is it's only May. A lot of these companies actually won't even know what their hiring needs are until like the end of May. So if anything, the reason why we're doing this, why we're having this workshop now, is to make sure that you feel prepared. So by the time you're done with your finals, best of luck with those. Make sure you're sleeping. Make sure you have a strong study schedule. Once that's done, then you're in a position where you can find and apply. Okay. But I would imagine, like as you get to end of May, you're going to start to see a lot more jobs pop up. Okay. Let's go back now, and okay, let's actually go here. So this one, no, hold on. Let me see if I can just find like a tutoring job here. There you go. Okay. Cool. So here is a part-time job, right? Requirements. Relevant experience. Great. Okay. So here's something you can apply for, right? So now what we can do is you can actually take this job description. Take this job description. Let's go back to ChatGPT and say now revise the resume based on this job description. Let's highlight keywords, accomplishments. All right. Now you type in the responsibilities. And this is where it makes your life a lot easier. So that's why I was saying at the very beginning, don't create a tailored resume off of the get-go. Instead, just have a resume that contains everything, because then you can put that in here with each job description, and it can actually create a curated job description for you. And there you go. Let's take a look. Screen paused. Okay, so now you can see here, this is the output that ChatGPT created. So passionate 10th grader, eager to apply to strong Python and Java programming, robotics experience, and love for teaching, applying for an instructor role at Coding Minds Academy. Right, excited to mentor younger students, right? This is now actually very relevant to the job. Now, this really hasn't changed. And so, I think kind of getting to your point regarding the courses. So here, the relevant courses that we talked about, computer science principles, calculus, physics honors, right? We're not putting every single course in here, just like the ones that are perhaps the most impressive. Okay. Volunteer Service Award, Computer Robotics Club Regional Semifinals. Let's assume that was actually an award. And then now, with respect to the experience, you can see the Robotics Club is at the very, very top, because that's the most relevant job experience. And you can see action words, right? Quantification, impact. So here are your technical and soft skills. Right, so use the activity list and the resume template to create a thorough resume. That is how you look for a job. That is then how you leverage AI to create a resume tailored for that specific job. Okay. So we talked about this. Okay. The interview. So the next step, it's really going to be, I'd say, like a two-step process. So one is they may just ask you to submit your resume online, which is totally fine. Honestly, what I would recommend is if they have an actual place of business to go to go there with a printed resume and just try to meet with someone when you're there. Okay. There's so much stuff just being emailed here and there. It's going to be a far more effective use of your time to just go there in person because I think your conversion rate between application and job will be a lot higher. People want to meet other people, and if they can, associate a face to the name and their experience with the name in the resume, that'll go a lot farther than them just kind of reading some stuff on the screen. Okay. It also shows initiative, and if you can form a connection with that individual, it'll go a very, very long way. And in the process, you get to learn something new, right? You get to learn how to pitch yourself, which is really important. And that's actually the very first bullet, which is how would you describe yourself in 30 seconds in a way that's relevant, right? So let's say I'm Sunny Graywell from the resume. It could be, hi, my name is Sunny. I'm a sophomore at Miramani. I've been taking coding since X, Y, and Z, and I've programmed in X, Y, and Z. I'm currently I've done really well in relevant courses, and I'm interested in this role because I love to help other people, and I'd love to kind of continue to refine and hone my programming skills, something like that. So what you're doing is you're providing info about who you are, relevant context, and then why are you reaching out, right? So practice something like that. You don't have to, write the exact script down, or maybe you might. I might, work with some people. For me, at least, it's more just what are the major concepts that I'm trying to relay. Okay. So how would you describe yourself? Why would you want this job? What do you hope to accomplish? Right now, I know we live in very much digital age, and I do hope that us having, meetings in person help with the last bullet point. But smile, ask questions, right? Eye contact. Um, Interviewers love it when candidates ask questions. It could be something like, what is a day in the life of this job? What challenges are you experiencing with this business? What responsibilities would you envision for me? What is it that you like most about your job? Right. So ask those questions because it's really going to be a way for you to drive engagement. And it's more importantly, it's a way for you to build connection and learn about the act of the job itself. Now, you don't have to get the first job that you get. You don't have to take the first job that you get. But I think if you were to go ahead and actually go off to a place, hand off your resume and say hello, give your 30-second pitch, I think it'll go a long way. For those who do get called in for an official interview, I don't think they're going to be very, very long. If it's a more technical interview, I would just say make sure that you're kind of brushed up on your coding skills as an example. But for the most part, I would imagine they're going to be pretty short. So know your resume, not inside and out, but make sure you kind of understand the key bullets, the impact that you've had, why you did what you did, because they'll probably go through it. So that's the interview. I think the last is making the most out of it. So be curious. There's a really good chance that you might hate the job, and that's totally okay. You're not expected to like the very first job that you get. In fact, I'm sure your parents can probably agree. They've taken a lot of jobs that they hated. So it's just part of life. Be curious. So there's a lot that you don't know. There's a lot more that you don't know that you don't know. So this is a time for you to learn, right? This is also a time for you to expect challenges and be okay with it. Embrace feedback. This is one of the key attributes that perhaps your parents, especially I, kind of look for in a candidate. Having hired, I want to say close to 100 people. One of the key things I look for is to what extent would this person be open to feedback? How do they take feedback? Um, are they a curious individual, and are they okay with adversity? So that actually kind of covers everything. So just to recap, I would definitely take a look at the resources that you have, um, in the community drive. Um, your consultants will certainly be going through the resumes with you. If they haven't, just remind them that they will. If they haven't yet, it might be because they're addressing something else, which is totally fine. Thank you. Uh, and yeah, best of luck. Most importantly, best of luck with finals. They're coming up, I want to say next week. So make sure that you're sleeping on time. Make sure that you have like a strong study schedule. If you need help, reach out to the team. They're here to help you. And then also know which courses to prioritize. So with that, everyone have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And yeah, thanks again for choosing to work with us. Bye.